that words have energy. They have the ability to give life, to destroy. They can do anything. And that's the idea of poetry. So the concept behind Arts of Thought is to capture that energy and share it with people in that written form. So each article is beautiful because it is usually an authentic expression of the individual who's writing it. And that's something sacred to me, even amidst AI and these technological revolutions. I think that human peace can't yet be touched. I don't know if it ever will through AI. So that's why it's something that I need to protect as well through Arts of Thought, is just protecting that authenticity. And I think written word is something that's like the epitome of that. And most of the time, the people that respond to me are the ones who tend to be the most authentic and the most interested in what they're sharing with the world, the most passionate, almost like they're more in tune with their...
Integrating consciousness is a channel devised to explore a plethora of modalities accessible in supporting the collective in the exploration and expansion of self, and ultimately integrating what we've learned. The planet is shifting its vibration. Old paradigms and concepts are being challenged. Science is shifting, supporting, and merging with the teachings of ancient spiritual beliefs. The masses are feeling the shift, ultimately and collectively expanding consciousness. We are in an incredibly exciting time, yet many of us lack communities, guides, leaders, and teachers to turn to for support because we don't know how to find them. My name is Lelanea Fulton, and I'm a spiritual transcendental mindset coach and unity consciousness mentor. My intention is to create a space that supports individuals seeking personal growth by providing a wealth of knowledge, tools, strategies, insights, practitioners, and language. This will be achieved through the diverse guests I invite to this podcast. So your free and easy support of subscribing, rating, and reviewing this podcast is paramount, as is how such information can move through the platform algorithms. Every month, we will offer free and easy ways that you can acquire free coaching sessions and more with your favorite practitioner. I would also like to invite you to please share any episode that moves you. You never know when a small act of kindness can support a huge energetic shift in a person's life. We are all here to support one another through acts of kindness, and to pass along information is a tremendous act of service. So thank you, and may you recognize the powerful creator you are. Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome to another episode of Integrating Consciousness. Today, I have somebody that I really enjoy speaking to, and so it's a huge pleasure for me to get to introduce you to Alec Holmes, who is the founder and the creator of this really beautiful platform that's called Arts of Thought. And I'm going to read to you what he describes Arts of Thought to be about, which Arts of Thought began as a platform for sharing content related to psychology and has naturally grown to embrace topics in spirituality and human experience. I find this to be an absolutely incredibly beautiful platform that offers a diverse array of information, anything and everything from metaphysics to psychology, focusing a lot on Jungian psychology, and then also introducing really beautiful healers and providers that are providing services from psychology to the mystics to shamanism. It's a really gorgeous and well curated platform. And I think one of my favorite aspects about this platform is the newsletters, which are expressing gorgeous poetry as well as the written content. So please let me welcome to you, Alec Holmes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lelanea. It's good to see you again. And I've watched your podcast quite a bit, so I'm totally honored to be on here. And I think you introduced Arts of Thought better than I could have. So thank you for that. I'd love to get into it with you. I know you had a couple questions about some of the contributors and the articles. So yeah, I think you introduced it well.
Yeah.
And you captured the essence of it. But I wanted to touch on, to introduce it in a little bit more depth, is the core seed of Arts of Thought is written content. It's a platform out there that's totally dedicated to written content. Anyone who visits will notice that the only content on there is written. We have articles, poetry, and books that we share. So that's the essence of it. Being a contrarian in this world of quick media, TikTok, and short videos, it's hard to break into the written space, but that's what we attempt to do with that.
So what inspired this? How were you led to this, to build this beautiful platform and curate these amazing contributors?
Sure. So it starts as a more personal story. So going through high school, I fell into a deeper depression when I stopped playing baseball. I got an injury, and baseball had been a huge part of my life. So I had an identity crisis when I lost my access to baseball and being an athlete because I didn't have any value anymore. So I really struggled with my identity high school through like early college, and it went to a dark place. And it didn't start to turn around until I took my first psychology class, because in school we're often taught about biology and all these things that are external from us, and psychology was the first time that I got words and an ability to explore my inner world. So I was addicted instantly. I switched my major from history over to psychology, and I became obsessed with it. And I changed my major quickly and just pursued that to a further extent than just taking classes. Like I started talking to these professors, and I was just genuinely interested in learning, and I'd read books on the side. Even got to a point where my grades were suffering because I would find something that I was interested in and delve into that rather than what I should have been focusing on in class. So I pursued that through college up until my last year when I was a senior. It took me 6 years to graduate college. It wasn't easy. That's a side point. But I realized that I was going to graduate and then I was going to lose access to psychology. So I wanted to think of a way to where I could maintain access to it and continue to study and continue to be in those crowds and learn from these people. So I just randomly was sitting in my bedroom one day and I wanted to start a website. So I had nothing, no idea what it would be, just a vague vision of what it could turn into. And I came up with the domain name Arts of Thought. It was the only one that wasn't taken on the list. And I thought that kind of summed up everything that I was envisioning for it. And that's the genesis of it, how the personal story ties into the platform.
I'm wondering, in a past life, if there was some really brilliant mind that was very embedded in the world of psychology and maybe its forefront at some point.
So that's a good question. I've had a few past lives. So younger me was an athlete, just focused on baseball. Through that identity challenge mid high school, I became a seeker. So I was super interested in learning about myself, but I didn't have the terminology. I didn't have any spirituality. I didn't have anything. So I became a lost soul. And I ended up going through the traditional psychiatric thing to try to help me because I didn't know where I was going. I was completely lost. I didn't know what my identity was. And I was basically just seeking, and I knew that there was something bigger out there. I knew that there was a purpose to life, but I just couldn't find it. And I actually wrote a poem back then. It was one of the first ones that sort of came forth. It's something almost channeled, or not something I wrote. It's called Miss Lioness. It's about a lion that was born in a zoo. And she didn't know, she had this inclination that there was something beyond this glass cage, that she was meant for something more. So yeah, I was a seeker. And through college, I would take my classes. I was a history major. I wasn't super interested in history, but I would often just be outside by myself, like just scribbling in a journal, just little poems and things. And I was a loner. I didn't spend a lot of time with people. I wasn't interested in parties and things like that. But I had a little social group. But ultimately, I was trying to find purpose and meaning. And that's what propelled this path forward, is that seeking for meaning and a deeper purpose rather than just going to college, getting good grades, getting 9 to 5. I knew there's something more. That's kind of driving force that kind of carried me through those past lives.
Yeah, I can relate to that immensely, knowing that there's something so much bigger than ourselves and there's so much more out there to explore than the conformity that we see around us in society. I recognize that and I can totally relate to that. So the platform starts off with Psyche and Soul. And when you click onto Psyche and Soul, it brings you into a lot of these really beautiful writings that are listed, and they come from an array of different contributors as well as people that are also healers that are listed on the website under the Find a Healer area.
I think they're all equally amazing to me to learn from. And from behind the scenes, these people are also quite spectacular people. So the idea behind the diversity and the whole mixture of different backgrounds, different systems of healing, is to find something that appeals to the individuals, because not everybody resonates with the same thing. So if someone were to scroll through, there might be something that stands out, and that would be the one that I recommend reading, just for whatever that particular person is going through in their life. But for me, I think every single article that anyone has contributed is equally as profound, just because it's so special to me, because it's synchronistic how these connections come about. Even with you, I know you contributed a beautiful article about your near-death experience. And the things you've said in there about the connection, these universal connections, and just going through your experience has been amazing as well. And that's something that anyone can learn from and take pieces out of. So yeah, your experience is quite interesting too. So it's hard for me to recommend one. It just depends on what resonates best with the person who's scrolling through at the time.
Yeah. And for anyone who's interested, Alec just touched on an article that I contributed. So I had an NDE when I was younger, and then have had a couple experiences of unity consciousness, which are considered these mystical experiences. They happen, both of them, aside from the one that happened in the NDE, two of them have happened, one in the New York subway and one in a car passing between Vancouver, British Columbia and Washington State. And they are moments where time literally collapses. There's a vibrational change, and almost it feels as though there's a dimensional change. And I start receiving what is referred to as downloads or information regarding unity consciousness, fragments of source, and ultimately source energy, and how we're all connected. And each one of us has chose to have a different experience or a different journey. And through that decision to have different experiences, source is learning more about itself. And in this moment, I actually realized, and it's not an intellectual realization, it was ingrained in every cellular membrane of my body. It was a full-on experience of feeling love at the highest level that I could ever imagine feeling, and recognizing that I was source, who was finally remembering that I was source. And I'm not really describing it very well when I articulate. However, when I write, that's where I'm able to fully express myself. So if anyone's interested or intrigued with NDEs and unity consciousness and mystical experiences and source and fragmentation, then I will include a link to that particular story in the show notes, and you're more than welcome to check it out. And I would love to hear any comments about the experience. And if you're someone who has also had a similar experience where time literally changes and people start moving differently, I would absolutely love to hear from you. It's definitely something that I've been seeking out through others. Through the Arts of Thought platform, I have found that there are really unique and authentic individuals that are expressing their experiences and their knowledge on here. It feels probably a little less or free of ego than many of the other platforms that I've contributed to in terms of what's being articulated. And also what I can say about a lot of what's being contributed to this particular platform. I read Medium, and I'm a contributor to Brains magazine. And what I can see is that there's a lot less usage of AI. AI allows an individual who is writing content to plug in some keywords, a little bit of their writing style, their experience, and then something's auto-generated, and then they can modify and tweak. What I'm finding on Arts of Thought is not that. I am finding beautiful expressions of a person's experience or their knowledge and where they're coming from in a very authentic way. And I think if you're somebody who wants to delve deeper into this type of information and would love to do it in a way that doesn't feel so modified and so homogenous as what's being generated from AI, I think that you would really love Arts of Thought. Just a gentle reminder that if you're doing the inner work or feeling called for deeper self-exploration and transformation, that my practice is here to support you. My role as a Transcendental Mindset Coach is to serve as a compassionate guide and mirror, reflecting your inner brilliance and potential, because you came to this life with everything it is that you need to align with your path and purpose. In doing this, I offer a range of services tailored to meet the unique needs of each client, incorporating the support of evidence-based coaching techniques, meditation, mindfulness practices, gene keys shadow work, pattern recognition, somatic work, inner parts work, kinetic and breath work to facilitate inner balance and alignment alongside being trauma-informed. We will work in tandem as I support you in integrating or embodying your newfound awareness and heightened openness to a higher form of consciousness. It is my intention to support you as you architecturally design the reality you want to participate in and the life that you want to live. My practice supports you in being a masterful creator of intentions. You can contact me via my website. The link is in the show notes. So thank you, and please enjoy the remainder of the episode.
And from my perspective, talking to such a diverse array of individuals from all different types of backgrounds, it seems that there's something common that everyone's working towards. And then the near-death experience is tied into it too. I don't know how, I don't know why, but just from my perspective, from talking to everyone, there's all these common threads that thread through everything. And that's something special about Arts of Thought too, is it's diverse, but there's also a common thread through everything. So like your experience, for example, the universal consciousness reminds me of the Dada Ganamuktananda's article about meditation, because he's trying to access that same feeling through meditation. And then he comes back with some profound wisdom as well from that practice. And there's all sorts of different practices, and even the clinical psychologist background, like they come back with these things that can profoundly help people. Then I also like that you mentioned the AI piece. So from my since I'm generating the vision for Arts of Thought, the primary focus is authenticity. And in poetry, for the people that either write it or like to read it, one of the magic pieces of poetry that most people don't realize is it comes from authenticity. The most magical pieces that strike you, there's some energy in them. It comes from pure authenticity. And the more authentic that you can get a piece, the more it strikes people. And that really interested me even a while ago, noticing that you can capture energy in words, that words have energy. They have the ability to give life, to destroy, they can do anything. And that's the idea of poetry. So the concept behind Arts of Thought is to capture that energy and share it with people in that written form. So each article is beautiful because it is usually an authentic expression of the individual who's writing it. And that's something sacred to me, even amidst AI and these technological revolutions. I think that human piece can't yet be touched. I don't know if it ever will through AI and all that. So that's why it's something that I need to protect as well through Arts of Thought, is just protecting that authenticity. And I think written word is something that's like the epitome of that.
I love this. You're almost like a gatekeeper of authenticity through the form of written word, right?
Yeah, something like that. And I didn't intend for that to happen. It just happened. And then just another side note on that is I reach out to a lot of people that I find interesting. And typically, most of the time, the people that respond to me are the ones they tend to be the most authentic and the most interested in what they're sharing with the world, the most passionate, almost like they're more in tune with their inner child and things like that. Pretty much everybody that has engaged with me has that degree of interest in their work and authenticity. So it's a special project. It's not only a project like a platform, it's also a journey for me and for those who engage with it. So yeah, it's just a special thing for sure.
I'll agree with you wholeheartedly. There's a humanness of authenticity that AI can't replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're reading a lot of these online publications, you can see those who are using AI to just generate material and information for consumption. And then you can tell those who are really putting intentions behind what it is that they're saying, and it's truly coming from their inner voice. And that's what makes reading your platform really fun. It's a journey of exploring these unique individuals and their experiences and how they convey them. And something that I've learned in those experiences of unity consciousness or oneness that I've had, like some of the downloads and the information that I was receiving, was that we all decided to have different experiences and different journeys so that ultimately I could remember who I was, or Source could remember who it was, and collect all these different experiences. And what I learned is that through emotions and connecting with another person on an emotional level, that we have the ability, especially for people who are really in tune to being empathic, that we have the ability to merge, not tether, not mesh, or become interlocked, but to merge with one another and to literally feel their experiences that they're having. And it doesn't mean that you would have the same experience or the same emotions, or that you would, no, I want to say you wouldn't have the same experience if you were walking in their shoes, because you're a different individual. So
Mhm.
through those emotions, you get to sense their experience, the journey they signed up for. And it's similar through going through your platform, because these people are so authentic, and that reading from their inner voice rather than AI generated articles,
Mhm.
you can truly learn the journey that they signed up to experience and how they're experiencing it. So it's really beautiful and well curated work.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, and very intuitive of you to notice that. And yeah, it's the written word can give you those downloads, and you can get a good impression. Not quite as being in person, but you can definitely get those downloads. And these are very authentic people that genuinely care about helping others, and they're genuinely interested in their work. So it's refreshing to read these things and to get in touch and to talk to these people. It's inspiring, because a lot of the times we'll go through life and not be able to come across these people. So it's been a blessing to be able to engage with these people and create these connections, because they are life-giving and life-enforcing people. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. So for anyone who's interested in the platform, he has a section that's dedicated to psyche and soul, another section for love and intimacy, another area for practice and success, the human experience. There's a poetry gallery, and there's even a section dedicated to finding a healer. So a lot of these articles are being contributed by people who are healers, or if you want to call them providers, you want to call them light workers, whatever the term is that you want to apply to that, those people are on this. There's a bookstore where Alec is curating a really beautiful list of books to support you in navigating maybe where you want to read and what you're looking into. And there's also some books that are listed on there that have been written by some of the contributors that are on this website as well. And so, Alec, I'm wondering if we could touch a little bit on Dr. Lynn Worley.
Okay, that's a good pick. Dr. Worley, he's a very special guy in my life. He was one of the original contributors to Arts of Thought. So when I was in the early stages of building the website, I had the idea, I'm going to reach out to a real psychologist. And that was like a big dream for me, to actually get a real psychologist to engage with me. And so I sent him an email. I studied his site and said, I'm really interested in your work. And he has a Jungian background, and he does a lot of dream work. So I was like, I'm super interested in your site. Do you mind if I do a written interview with you? I'll just ask you a few questions. And he said yes. So that was like a very exciting moment for me, because I got my first taker to contribute to the platform. And he did that interview. It's on the website. It's one of the very first articles. And he took me through dream analysis and the power of dreams in psychology, and how dreams can help us get more in touch with our true self, or our core nature, which was quite profound. He led me on this dream analysis path. And not only did he write that article, but we were also able to meet, because he didn't live too far away. So I drove down to Austin, Texas. I was in Denton, going to the University of North Texas at the time. And we actually got to meet him and his girlfriend, Jasmine Singh, who is also a contributor on the website. But just seeing them in person, it made that connection even more special, because starting the website, it was just a vision, and then putting it into action and then having an actual connection come from it was super special. And that gave me a very powerfully motivating force to continue on and continue to meet people and build the platform. But yeah, his work is super interesting as far as dream analysis and the Jungian concepts.
Did you do any dream analogy work with him?
I did, yeah. I used to send him some dreams. I don't know if you can see the painting up here. That was a
Uh-huh.
dream that I had. He actually helped me look into it, and we delved into it. It's called The Lion and the Shaman. But yeah, he just helped me break down my own subconscious and look at these dreams and have different ideas about them. He also had the practice that he was doing, which is dream journaling,
Hmm.
which is you basically get a journal and then wake up every morning and write down your dream the best you can.
I
And
do
that,
it. Yeah.
yeah, it's this cool thing, and you can really dig into your subconscious mind, and you get better at it. Like in the
Mhm.
beginning, if you're just starting, you don't really remember much. But the
Mhm.
more you practice it, the more you'll be able to remember your dreams and get in contact with your core self, which
Mm.
that was cool. It's a pretty profound experience learning from
You
him.
still dream journal?
I don't, I want to again. I set
Yeah.
it down. I have my little journal up on my shelf, but yeah, I'd like to pick it back up again soon.
Yeah, I dream journal. And I noticed that when I'm dream journaling, when it becomes more consecutive and I don't miss like a day or a few days, you can start to see patterns within the dreams. Through my experiences, I can tell when there's like a subconscious dump of additional information that has just come through me through my day, or maybe I pick something up through a social media or TV or something. And then there's when I'm like literally interacting in discovering a past life. And then there's actually meeting other souls and interacting with people on other spirits or beings from other realms. So there's this really beautiful way of logging the data, which then you start to see patterns and movement, and you start to learn about yourself in this really detailed way. If there's anyone out there who's very curious about dream journaling, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and it's a very purifying practice, I guess, because you're
Yeah.
taking those subconscious things that might be sitting there within you that you're not giving attention to, and you're bringing them out and looking at them. But yeah, like that you mentioned, these recurring themes, and sometimes you run across the same characters every once in a while. And then once you engage with those characters, they'll teach you a lesson or let you go if they're more of a negative force. But
Mm.
yeah, it's a cool practice. You're making me want to pick it back up again.
Heck yeah, I think you should.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on Anna.
Sure. Yeah. So Anna, she is super interesting. I found her because she also had a near-death experience, a pretty crazy one. I won't tell her story for her, but if anyone wants to see her story, you can just type in Anna Stone NDE on YouTube and you'll find it. So she's super interesting to me because before this experience, she was like a government scientist, a very analytical, like regimented person, very intellectual, not interested in anything spiritual like that, just like a hard, objective person. And she had this experience. She left her body. She had a whole NDE experience. But when she came back and recovered from that experience, she had a whole personality shift to where she wasn't as regimented. She wasn't as focused on like material world. She got really into the spiritual realm. She got really into psychology and then just altered paths 90 degrees or 180 degrees, whatever. But she just completely changed. So that was interesting to me because what kind of experience could cause someone to do such a radical shift? So she contributed an article. She's currently studying psychology and sort of metaphysical psychology, like evidence of like telepathy, things like that, just things that aren't quite like objective. So she got really interested in that, and she contributed an awesome article on Arts of Thought, just going into that. But yeah, she's super interesting.
Yeah. Her article, just starting out, the very first sentence: 97% of individuals with psychic abilities, scientifically documented or otherwise, report having experienced moderate to severe systemic abuse and trauma in their early childhood.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, she shines light. A lot of people experience these weird things like telepathy or seeing into a different realm, things that aren't normal, and they're not things that you can talk about. But Anna does a great job at shining light for these people that have these things. It helps them not feel like they're weird and that it's normal. And a lot of people, like she says, who experience trauma unlock these capabilities. And it's not something to be ashamed of. She goes into it, but it's something that can really help and serve people.
Yeah, she delves into the trauma theory of psychic ability, where she talks about 67% of 2/3 of Americans believe that they've had at least one paranormal experience in their lifetime. And then she goes on to mention that percent of Americans say that they've had a somatic experience where they felt a presence they could not explain. 33% claim they have had an unexplained auditory experience or heard things they could not explain. And 30% claim to have an olfactory experience. So something really interesting is, growing up, I've had auditory. So numerous scenarios, I've heard a voice that has just come out of nowhere, to the degree where I even look around me that would say, Lelanea, don't, Lelanea, do this, Lelanea, go here, Lelanea. Or even when I was in that mystical experience, the very first thing I heard, because I was judging some people that were next to me in a car next to me based off of the music that they were listening to at the octave level that they were listening to. I was being a little bit of a judgmental shit. And I heard a voice as if it were sitting in the passenger seat next to me that said, Lelanea, do not judge them. They are you. And so I've had that experience so many times. And what's wild is my mom has an olfactory. So she, when she was young, about 4 or 5 years old, could tell you the neighbor had passed away and they lived in the country, like back in the Appalachian Mountains. And my mom told my grandmother that the neighbor had passed away. And my grandmother said, "How do you know this?" And she goes, "Because I can smell him." And so she would smell when people were past, like she could smell the unique smell associated with a particular person, like their signature smell when they were transitioning over.
Yeah, I like that Anna mentioned that because that's not something I'd really think about. But yeah, that's super interesting. I've heard stories like that. One of my uncles, he's super what's the word for it? Like his capabilities for that sort of thing are pronounced. Like that's what he's known for. But he said like when I was born, he saw a squirrel on the road and he told his mom, he's like, I think Alec was just born. And this guy, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I love that Anna and you are shining light on these things because I think it should be talked about. And it's normal and it's something that could probably be enhanced as well.
It's totally normal. I think what's not normal is suppressing it.
Yeah.
What's not normal is not talking about it or articulating it. What's not normal is not having it. And we all have it. We all have the empathic capabilities. We all have some sort of psychic sensibilities, which just mean these heightened abilities that are outside of our five senses, or just a heightened version of one of our five senses. But there are also senses outside of the five senses that we utilize to navigate our experiences. And we just don't have the language to truly articulate what the experience is. So we dumb it down to the language that we do have that are around the five senses, because there's language around those five senses, right? But there's just not enough people maybe to have that olfactory experience of recognizing when a person is transitioning, or even when a person is being born, or using animal symbolism, or seeing a particular animal and it brings up this intuitive nudge that something is happening, and being able to articulate that nudge. So I think that's what's not normal. Just as not normal is the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, getting home from work, sitting down and watching TV until you're finally ready to go to sleep and do it all over again.
Yeah,
That's
totally. And
normal.
I love that topic because that's also a driving force with arts of thought. And it came from that experience I had with psychology, my first psychology classes. Wow, there's actually language for these things. And
Yeah.
people actually study this stuff. So with arts of thought, it's about giving language and giving words to these experiences that aren't typically talked about.
Yeah.
So like sharing and creating language for these experiences and allowing us to talk about them. So it's like almost like an addition to language, or exploring like what's beyond our normal verbiage. So yeah, I like that topic a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm thankful for Anna Stone to be doing the research and the work that she's doing. So in the show notes, I will leave a link to that article from contributed by Anna Stone. Somebody else that I'd like to touch on that I discovered through going through your website and absolutely love her work is I found the topics that she expands upon is really great work, and she speaks really to the empath in quite a bit of her work. And I'm very curious what your experience has been with her.
Yeah, I love Emi. She's an amazing person. She has a unique blend of, she has a Buddhist background, psychology, and she's also an artist. But she really speaks to my inner child because she, like you said, she's focused on the empath and the children who might feel strange or weird or isolated, because I was like that. When I was a child, I was very quiet. I wouldn't talk to people a lot. I'd just be sitting back and just observing and trying to figure things out the best I could. And people would say, oh, he's shy, or he's scared of this, he's scared of that. So I would embody that, like, maybe I am shy and maybe I am scared of this stuff. But Emi, she shines light on that sort of child. And one of her articles, I forget the name of it, but she delves into how parents and how adult figures can scar these children, like they did to me a little bit, calling me these things. And she goes into it and shows that these kids, they're not abnormal. They just require different inputs to build them up and let them thrive. So yeah, Emi, she totally speaks to my inner child. And for anyone that's a parent, or really anyone, I think it could benefit anyone, that article there about the child. And she also goes into relationships and centered around that inner child almost.
I love your experience that you've had with her in terms of her contributions. I think that too often do we try to articulate a child's experience and we do it wrongly. And then we've convinced that child that they are that label, right? And so instead of allowing that child to divulge their own experience as they learn language to further articulate it. I'm very curious about Bev Janish.
So she has an interesting background as well. She was a nurse. I believe she worked in a hospital for most of her life. And she had a kind of a transformational experience where she realized that she was meant for something different, I believe, and then wanted to shift that. And she began doing a lot of introverted work and discovering more about herself. And she ended up going into the coaching route. I guess her main teaching is helping people who are going through that transition, who have an identity crisis or feel like they're not doing what their soul wants them to do. She talks a lot about the dark night of the soul, having the courage to follow that calling, your intuition, things like that. And I think this might resonate a bit with you. I think you had a similar experience to what Bev is talking about when you're working and you all of a sudden realize, I don't think this is me. I think I should be doing something else.
So I had a spiritual awakening, and it's interesting when people talk about spiritual awakenings, I ask them what is their understanding of it. And a lot of times what they'll describe is what I experience numerous times throughout life, which are just shifts and pivots and just these awe moments. But an awakening, what I've come to find, is often tethered with the dark night of the soul, which is a very Jungian concept and even existed prior to Jungian. And I think Eckhart Tolle speaks a lot about this. I think he had this experience as well of really letting go of your ego completely. There was a month where I couldn't tell you who I was. I knew my name was Lelanea, but I didn't feel like Lelanea. I completely let go of everything that was associated with my identity. If it was associated with my identity, I didn't feel connected to it. I did a complete career change. I was in the wine industry at the time. I stopped drinking. I couldn't even stand the smell of alcohol. My friends completely dissolved and just fell away as if I didn't exist. And I had a pretty diverse and large friend group, and then a really tight, intimate group. And even that tight, intimate group, only really two are remaining of what was a substantial group of friends. I just recognized that I wasn't in alignment with my authenticity and why I was here. I was completely living a fictitious representation of myself. And I knew it. I was getting these tremors, right? But you go on for a significant period of time. Some people even talk about it going on for like years of not knowing who you are and feeling like everything you did up to that point was a complete farce.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an important journey for everyone. And I think Bev discusses it beautifully. I haven't seen really any other writing or book or anything that captures that so nicely. She says having the courage to follow your North Star, because oftentimes we get that feeling, that inclination that things aren't right, like you had. But it takes courage to step out of that because it's really easy to stay comfortable. So even in my journey, like it requires courage to follow that North Star, like Beth says, and
Absolutely.
listen to your intuition and move in the path and the direction that these things are calling you towards. The worst thing you can do is say no.
Yeah, it's the
That's
worst.
very sad.
Yeah.
It's like death almost.
Yeah, it's interesting. Most people fear rejection of another person, or they fear another person leaving them as if that's the worst thing that could ever happen. And in my mind, the worst thing that could ever happen is that you don't follow your North Star or seek the authenticity of who you are or really align with your values, but instead you self-abandon so that you can fit into the mold that's been established by others who hate their fucking lives.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's sad, and it's good to find people who do pursue that journey and do listen to the intuition, because it's encouraging. It can get lonely sometimes because I feel like the majority don't follow that path or just don't have enough confidence to do, even though they might want to. So I know with your coaching service and many others on Arts of Thought, the Healer page, these are people that are willing to help you along that journey, because it is very important. God designed us a certain way, and it's so sad not to reach our fullest potential the best we can, because we have gifts, and oftentimes these gifts help others. So it's an important mission, an important journey to go on, and there are people out there who can help, and I know you're one of them.
Thank you. And you know what? I just want to reflect on what you just said, because it landed really deeply with me, that there are people out there with gifts who are contributing to others, because that path of actualization, or that path to leave the mold, because there's this feeling of being exiled when you do, that path is arduous. It is scary. The unknown is terrifying for us, because there's still that very primal need to belong, to fit in, because being exiled did mean death to a certain degree for a certain type of person. And it is not easy. Inner change, doing the inner work, growth, evolution, expansion, and following your North Star, as Bev would put it, is very noble. And it's not easy. And there are people out there who have walked that road and can't give you an individualized blueprint or roadmap, but can support you in creating and becoming the architect of your own reality, so that you can have your own roadmap for that. And what I love is that you have a platform that allows the everyday individual to find these type of people who are truly showing up authentic, who are truly showing up with a service to contribute to others, and are exercising their voice in full transparency as to who they are and what their gifts are. So thank you for providing a platform to make it easier for the everyday person to find that support, even if it's in the form of just written word. And thank you for being a seeker.
Yeah,
We need
no,
more
no problem.
seekers.
I feel like I have to do these things because I listen to my intuition the best that I can. And these people along the way are pivotal and super important for the journey. And then just a quick point on that is it's worth it. If you have these inclinations, if you want to do something, just do it and see what happens. That's what happened to me with Arts of Thought, and it's been a wonderful journey. And I've been able to meet beautiful people and unlock just new learnings, and I'm still on it, so we'll see what happens, but it's been fun so far.
That's a beautiful expression of who you are, and it's definitely present in there. So thank you. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you would like to circle back to, or if you're feeling complete in our connection together today.
I think we made some good points. We really got at the essence of the Arts of Thought project. So I appreciate that, the time to reflect. And just grateful to be on here. I'm usually the one behind the scenes, so I'm never on these podcasts or things. I like giving light to other people. So I'm appreciative of you taking interest in my story and letting me be on your platform.
Super interested and super interesting. So, Alec, it was an absolute pleasure to have you. I have so much gratitude for getting to exchange this time and energy with you, and have so much appreciation for how you're showing up in the world. So thank you for sharing yourself, your creativity, and your authenticity with everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had fun.
It was a pleasure. Thank you kindly.
Yeah, thank you.